head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. Primetime Deion Sanders says, give me my theme music. On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to talk about Klay Thompson, the Warriors' handling of his contract situation. So I kind of want to first start by going into this article that was written by Ramona Shelburne and by Kendra Andrews. And it talks about, the article starts talking about how Joe Lacob this offseason took Klay Thompson golfing at a very well-known golf course. It's called the Riviera Country Club in California, in Los Angeles. It's where the wealthiest of the wealthy, the Hollywood elites, if you will, often play golf. So Joe Lacob, very wealthy man, owns the second most valuable sports franchise on planet Earth, the Golden State Warriors, took Klay Thompson golfing. And it appears, as this article details, one of the things the article details, among other things that we're going to get into, is that this wasn't necessarily a, let's make one last push to try and convince Klay to stay. It was kind of a, listen, man, there's been maybe a little bit of bad blood. Let's calm it down. Let's go out on good terms before you join your new team this offseason. We wish you the very best. Which, to Joe Lacob, kudos. I think he handled that well in that regard. But it talks about this article that I find really interesting because Draymond Green touched on it on his podcast last night in what was, I think, one of Draymond's more compelling pods. I highly recommend everybody listen to it to kind of get the inside scoop from Draymond's perspective on Klay's departure and what Draymond Green himself, a free agent a year ago, almost did, which ties into this article. According to Ramona Shelburne and to Kendra Andrews in this piece, it talked about how after the 2022 NBA title, the Golden State Warriors won 2 years ago, the two of the Warriors' core three that built this dynasty from the ground up, Steph, Klay, Draymond. Obviously, Steph, we know, is the face of the franchise. He will make it a lifetime contract for the Warriors someday. He's that important, of course. That Draymond Green, a 2023 free agent, and Klay Thompson, a 2024 free agent, were, let's call it, annoyed, according to Kendra and to Ramona. As this piece details, the Warriors prioritize extending Jordan Poole for 4 years, $140 million, and Andrew Wiggins, 4 years, $109 million, over Thompson and Green the summer after they won a championship, which didn't sit well with either of the two veterans. Now, Draymond went on his podcast and talked about, I was going to sign with the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, as a Warriors fan and as a guy who truly, and I mean truly, detests the Memphis Grizzlies, I did not have to know that from Draymond Green, who's my guy. That's well documented. But Draymond nearly left. Warriors kept him. Well, then Bryson, why did they not keep Klay Thompson? Because he was not contributing to winning anymore. Draymond does. We could show you the stats here. I put this up on Monday. We had a lot of Wi-Fi issues, so we'll put up the stat again. All stats provided by our friends at Stat News. All graphics provided by my man Alfred Parsard Jr. Golden State Warriors since their championship winning season. So since 2021-22, which is the year they won the title, to now, they've won 146 games. They lost 103 games. That adds up to about a 58% winning percentage. When the core three, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, play all together on the floor, in that span, the Warriors are 56-42. That's a 57% winning percentage. Here's where it gets a little uncomfortable. When Steph and Draymond play, and Klay Thompson does not, the Golden State Warriors are 35-8. That's 81% of their games. Well, Bryson, come on, man. Loyalty. I talk about all the time on this show, and I believe it to my very core. And I talked about when the Celtics won the NBA title that they deserve massive credit on. That despite calls to split up Tatum and Brown, to Jaylen Brown in particular, trade Jaylen Brown, try and build something different around Tatum. The Boston Celtics stuck to their guns, and they built a championship contender around those two guys. They were loyal to the right things. They were loyal to what could help them right now and in the future. And as this article talks about, this has been brewing for some time. This was not an issue that, at least from what I was aware of, where Klay was frustrated going back to last offseason, 2023. No, sir. This goes back to 2022. The Warriors, and this talks about how they tried to put the roster together and whatnot. This is really interesting to me. According to Ramona, according to Kendra, that when the Golden State Warriors, do we have this right here? Okay. When the Golden State Warriors were in a position to potentially reconstruct the roster a year ago, Steve Kerr vouched for the group, and in essence vouched for the group, and others vouched for the group and said, hey, let's keep it together. Let's give it one more try. And so the Warriors, who could have gone after LeBron James and did try and go after LeBron James, as this article talks about. They did try and go after Mikal Bridges, and they very much over the weekend tried to go after Paul George, and right now they're in the process of trying to get Lauri Markkanen. They tried to make those moves. It didn't go through. But they said, you know what, Steph, Klay, Draymond, we're going to give you one more shot together. And by injuries to some of the key players, in particular the suspensions to Draymond Green, the Warriors were the 10 seed in the West and got blown off the floor in Sacramento in the play-in game. Joe Lacob is not going to flirt with going into the second apron for that. And so, as uncomfortable as this is, and we can actually, let's go back to Klay, though. Let's go back to Klay. Because the idea, and I've heard this from former players, Kendrick Perkins, Richard Jefferson, I think, does a great job for ESPN. I love RJ, who was teammates with Klay at one point, early in Klay's career. Talk about, man, the Golden State Warriors, I'll tell you what, they have done Klay Thompson dirty. This is they were not loyal to one of the guys who built their dynasty. Yeah, they were. And it's inarguable. In 2015, when Klay was still at the peak of his powers, the Golden State Warriors gave him a 4-year, $68 million contract extension to stay with the team till 2019. So they were able to keep Klay Thompson, gave him $68 million. All of it well-deserved, by the way. In 2019, following Klay Thompson, who was brilliant in Game 6 against the Toronto Raptors, had a great finals in general, but that Game 6 before he tore his ACL, guy was splashing them everywhere, man. That offseason, the Golden State Warriors gave Klay Thompson, and I quote, a 5-year, $191 million contract when Klay Thompson had a torn ACL. By no fault of his own, because the ACL tear, where he missed the first year of that 5-year, $191 million contract, the following offseason, again, by no fault of his own, he blows his Achilles. He then misses the second year of that 5-year contract and about 3 months of the third year of that 5-year contract. So the Warriors paid Klay Thompson in excess of $70 million while he was hurt. They were loyal to him. Now, I'm not saying that Klay should have taken a pay cut for Golden State. Listen, this is the last big contract Klay's going to get. He should try and get every penny they can and try to maximize his abilities on a team he feels can contend for a championship and get him his 5th ring. I defend that, I get that, and I back that from Klay Thompson. I simultaneously, and if you check my record and check about a year ago, I've been alluding to the Warriors moving on for Klay Thompson for a while. Because while Klay's great, undeniably great, one of the things Klay has become known for is great Game 6s, great elimination games. And from 2015 to 2019, Klay averaged about 26 points per game on insane efficiency from the field and from three-point range. Klay Thompson, since that point, by no fault of his own, the 2 devastating, catastrophic injuries back-to-back, averages 8 points per game on 20% shooting from the field in elimination games. The idea that the Golden State Warriors should prioritize loyalty to a legend who's no longer great, effective, yes, great, no, at the expense of wasting the rest of Steph Curry's prime is organizational malpractice. Nobody's going to go to the Warriors I tell you, they have been so disloyal to Klay Thompson. Nobody's going to come there. Interesting. D'Anthony Melton, he signed there for $11 million. And Kyle Anderson signed there for 3 years, $27 million. They just acquired last night Buddy Hield, one of the 5 best shooters in basketball. The Warriors acquired him, or in the process of acquiring him in a sign-and trade from the Philadelphia 76ers to team up with Steph Curry. Sort of a newer, so it's not the old Splash Brothers. Nothing will ever match the old Splash Brothers, but sort of a newer Splash cousins, if you will, Steph and Buddy Hield. Oh, and by the way, they're in the process, potentially crossing fingers, of getting Lauri Markkanen, who says, hey, reportedly, according to sources in the Bay Area, I'll take a pay cut. I'll take a pay cut to join the Warriors. The Warriors did not do Klay Thompson dirty. And do I understand him being in his feelings a little bit about how this has all transpired over the course of the last 2 years, going back to after that 22 championship? Do I get that? 1,000%. I absolutely get it from Klay's perspective. And I also get it from the Warriors' perspective. And the fact of the matter is this. Steph Curry's 36 years old. In March of next season, he's going to be 37. I think Steph can have, I've talked about Steph, I think could be the Tom Brady of the NBA, that he is still at, I think he could be 43 years old and still be an effective, important, like maybe third best player on a championship contender, if hopefully maybe with the Warriors or with somebody else later in his career, if he wants to, because of the way he takes care of his body, the way he plays the game, which is going to age very well. Shooters last forever. Vince Carter, maybe the greatest in-game dunker ever, turned into a spot-up shooter, ended up playing into his 40s. Like, that's the way Steph plays. He'll last a while. But at this peak of Steph's career, at this level of his career, he's only got at least about 2 or 3 years left. You have an obligation as an organization in the Golden State Warriors to maximize every drop of that juice that you can get out of it. You do not sign Klay Thompson to whatever it would have been. It's been reported, I think Tim Kawakami and others in the Bay Area have reported 2 years, $48 million for Klay. That would have been a mistake. It'd have been great for Klay. It would have been a disaster for the Golden State Warriors. They are in the business of ensuring they get the absolute most out of Steph because they owe it to Steph. If Steph is in positions of power, and reportedly Klay told Steph Curry and Draymond Green, and Draymond basically confirmed it in his podcast last night, hey, don't interfere with contract negotiations. Don't exert your power to try and bring me back. I only want to come back if they want me back. Which kudos to Klay, included kudos to Steph and Draymond for that little agreement there. If Klay does not help the Warriors right now, and there are pieces out there that want to come and can, you go that route. It's uncomfortable. It sucks that it had to end this way. And for the record, I highly recommend that folks out there read this article by Ramona and by Ramona Shelburne, Kendra Andrews, who did a great job sort of talking about this 2-year process in Golden State and how it's gotten to where it is now. But the fact is this, that it's as important and critical as Klay Thompson has been to the Warriors. Their loyalty, first and foremost, has to be to Steph Curry. When Steph Curry became a Golden State Warrior in 2009, and I get the economy was different, inflation, I understand that, but the franchise was worth $370 million. 15 years later, they're worth $8 billion. That's Steph, with the help of Klay, with the help of Draymond, KD for a short spurt there for 3 years. Steph is still amazing. You have an obligation to put at least, if not even a championship contending team, if that's not possible, a competitive team, a team that won't be the 10 seed a year from now. And the Warriors look to be doing that right now. I still think they need to add a star. Markkanen, they're reportedly going after hard with the Jazz. They add him. I'm not saying they're title contenders, but they're going to be better than they were a year ago with Klay Thompson. Or without Klay this year than they were with him a year ago. It's uncomfortable. It sucks that this incredible Splash Brothers partnership where Steph paid tribute to him on Instagram yesterday, had to end like this. But if it meant the Warriors could get a little bit more out of this generational, contrary to what Gilbert Arenas says, this generational player that you have who has changed everything from the top on down about your franchise, your loyalty is to him first. If you can keep Klay, keep him, but not at the expense of winning. And the Warriors did the right thing and understood the big picture and what their primary objective and goal is this offseason. Priority number one, give Steph Curry a shot to contend. For carving up the context, hate that it had to end this way. But it had to end this way with Klay Thompson and the Golden State Warriors. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.